I've been so impressed by how Causeway so quickly, energetically and creatively shifted its focus and moved its activities online, moving into new areas, discussing new topics, and really impressively bringing in more members from across Scotland, Northern Ireland and Ireland, increasing its gender profile, and most impressive of all, creating the Young Professionals Network, which has brought real energy, new ideas, and indeed new industries into the network. And I think they're already making a huge difference, and I look forward to seeing how much more they can strengthen the trading relationship.
But one of the things I'm really proud of that we've achieved in the past year is the growth of our Young Professionals Network. And that's definitely something that I hope that will continue to grow in the years to come. They really bring an energy and influence to Causeway that's really positive. The other thing that I think is quite exciting is the feedback that we get from members when they join us for the first time. And the kinds of things that they say to us is that Causeway it's a friendly organisation. There aren't many big egos there. Sometimes they feel like they've kind of found their tribe. So our mission is to grow those members and give more people the opportunity to join Causeway and establish some of those really important business and professional links across the Irish Sea.
Welcome to our event ahead of International Women's Day, which is next week on the 8th of March. I'm delighted to welcome all our members of Causeway, guests today, and I know we're spread across a really wide geography today from joining, which is absolutely fantastic in our online event, which also really helps us. We've got a really large online presence that watch the events after, so I'd just like to welcome everyone that's joining us a little later as well. First of all, I'm Megan Harkins. I'm the Business Development Manager at Causeway Exchange. I'm co-hosting today with my co-host Claire Sullivan from Business 5. So Claire will be on a little later to introduce herself. In terms of the format of today's event, it's really an opportunity to showcase the women that we have in business within the Causeway network and to really celebrate kind of the International Women's Day and look a little bit closer at the theme, which is Break the Bias this year. So we have 4 amazing speakers. Unfortunately, Jane McCulloch, the Consul General of Ireland, is no longer able to join us today. And I know she was really looking forward to kind of saying a few words. And one of the bits she really wanted to touch upon, first of all, is about, as we kind of heard in intro video, the growing young professional network that we've had within Causeway. It's something that I've been kind of part of from its inception, and it's just continuously growing. And I think one of the really exciting things about that is when we kind of looked at the gender split within that, 57% of our young professionals are women. And I think that's a real sign of the times, that we're getting more involved, we're feeling more supportive of all our colleagues. And specifically within Causeway, since this time last year, we've had a 300% increase in women within Causeway. So it's really fantastic to be able to celebrate that today. Today's event is going to be interactive. We really encourage you to use the chat, get in your LinkedIn URLs. Today's all about networking, meeting, supporting each other. So we'd recommend doing that. If you have any questions for our speakers, if you can pop them in the chat, and we're going to come back to them after they finish speaking. This session is also being recorded, so not the breakout rooms, but the main bits, so we can take some of the really key pieces away. So thanks everyone for attending, and I'd now like to pass on to our co-chair in Causeway, successful Irish businesswoman in Scotland, Bridgette, to say a few words.
Thanks very much, Megan. And hello, everybody, and an early happy International Women's Day. It's always a bit disconcerting when you're watching the intro video and you pop up and have to listen to yourself. I'll have to remember just to switch off my sound for that bit. So it's great. It's great to be here, and I'm particularly happy to be here on the event that's celebrating International Women's Day. We had a great event last year, which there was something about the kind of real conversations that we had that went far beyond women in the workplace, but really got into issues of diversity and acceptance and the importance of connectedness. And Causeway is all about connections. That's really what we're here to do. We are here to connect business and professional people from across Scotland, Ireland, and Northern Ireland. Causeway is supported, and we're very grateful for the support by Irish and Scottish governments. We also are partners of the British-Irish Trade Alliance, so welcome to any of our joint Causeway BITA members who are here today. And we work with a whole range of organisations and agencies in a real spirit of collaboration and cooperation. So people like Enterprise Ireland, Scottish Development International, Invest NI, many of the Chambers of Commerce, and Lift Ireland, who are also at the event today. As I said, we're really about fostering closer economic ties across Ireland, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. And there was a bilateral review that was published, I think it was about a year ago now. And it is all about a huge effort across the Irish government and Scottish governments about consolidating existing ties that we naturally have across those geographies, kind of unlocking potential, and also looking at those industries where we can really share and collaborate and where together we can be stronger. And Causeway is a key part of enabling that part of the bilateral agreement between Ireland and Scotland. And we're proud to be playing our role in that. Like I said on the little VT there, one of the reasons why I joined Causeway was my co-chair, Judith O'Leary, who contacted me sort of out of the blue one day and says, let's meet, let's chat. We'll have a talk at this event, and we got chatting. But there was something about when I went to my first couple of Causeway events where I felt like, you know, this feels comfortable, it feels like home. This is a group of people that I can connect with and chat to, bounce ideas off, maybe do business with. I felt I'd found my tribe and kind of never looked back. And Judith and I took over in January as co-chairs, and we're very excited about how we can build on the great work that Causeway has done over the last few years and move it further into the future. So we're quite ambitious as to what we'll do. As Megan said at the beginning, our women members have grown threefold over the last 2 years, which is brilliant. And I must say the Causeway that I joined, to me, it felt a little bit male dominated, you know, and the fact that we've trebled our women membership is really good. But I am going to call out something in the spirit of openness in a group of people that I feel comfortable in saying this, is that it's not good enough. Because when we ran our numbers in advance of this event, we had 30% women as members of Causeway and 70% men. And that balance, that gap is closing. But come on, guys, we can do better. We absolutely, when I saw that, I thought, really, still? I thought we were a bit better than that now. So I am making a commitment now that this time next year, that gap will be much smaller. And it is great to see our young professionals network. Well, in fact, there are 57% women and 43% men, but a lot more equal. So please help us, and please share the message of Causeway. Those of you who are members and find it helpful, please talk to others about it and tell them about us, get them to come along to one of our events. Those who aren't members, please join us. We'd love to have you, and any of us would be happy to have a chat to you about the benefits of Causeway membership after this event, if you'd like to. I'm not going to say any more just now, because you're not here to listen to me. You're here to listen to some of the amazing speakers that we've got lined up. And we'll all have opportunities to chat as this event goes on over the next hour and a quarter. So I'm going to now hand over to one of our young professional members and one of the people who's arranged today's events, Claire O'Sullivan.
Hi everyone, this is the first event that I'm hosting as part of Causeway, and I can't think of a better event to kick it off. We are just about to launch our first poll of the event, so I think Aoife's going to do that now. The question is, in your career to date, have you experienced or had to challenge gender bias, either directed at you or someone else? So if you can answer that now, that would be great. We'll just give everyone a couple minutes to answer that, and then we'll launch the results. If anyone does have any comments that they want to share about the poll, feel free to pop them into the chat. So that's the results there. So 83% people say that they have experienced or had to challenge gender bias, and 17% of people have said no. And I think that that's one of the great things about events like these, is that we can talk about our experience and learn from others' experiences as well. So women actually only make up 15% of the construction industry professionals. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome our first guest speaker, Saffron Grant, who is the Managing Director of Digital Construction Skills. We're going to have a bit of a discussion with Saffron about her career and the construction industry. If you do have any questions, we will have an open section at the end where we can ask her questions, but feel free to pop them in the chat throughout. So I'm delighted to welcome you, Saffron. How are you?
Hi, Claire. Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good. So do you want to just start by telling us a little bit about your journey into the construction industry and your career path?
Yeah, so, well, when I was about, I think I was 16 or 17, I was lucky enough to go on a residential course. And each of the different days was a different type of engineering that was basically what led me to choose civil engineering. You know, probably because of the kind of the outdoor element and the practical element of it, rather than, you know, having to sit at a desk, which is, you know, was just not a nice thought. So yeah, then, you know, obviously I went to university and did a degree in civil engineering. I think I was one woman out of 50 on the course, but I mean, suppose that doesn't really make any difference to the way you learn anyway. It's, you know, it's just the way it was. And then when I graduated, my first job was with Glasgow City Council Roads Department, and from there I went into, you know, after a couple of years I went into the private sector, you know, still in these mainly in office-based roles, and then eventually I kind of, it's almost like I had to psych myself up to it and pluck up the courage to get a site-based job where you're actually out there physically, like taking information from the drawings and banging pegs into the ground in a place where somebody has to dig a hole and it has to be in the right place, and you're having to you know, mark out things, concrete foundations and things like that. So it's quite a lot of responsibility there. But you know, but you're outdoors, it's you know, most of the time. And then from there I went back to a kind of office-based job, but really the main reason for that was to be because when I was working on site, I was working down in Bolton, which, you know, is a good 3 or 4 hours away from Glasgow. So you know, that wasn't ideal. So after that, then I had children, and then that was when I decided to set up my own business, a training business. so that I could kind of construct the job around the way that I wanted to be able to, you know, have my working hours set up. So yeah, and that's 15 years ago now. So over the last 15 years, that training business has gone from strength to strength, and I've also set up another business now called Digital Construction Skills, so helping construction companies with digitalisation.
Yeah, and you talk about this transition from the kind of office jobs to on-site, and how different it was, and the kind of plucking up the courage to kind of go and do that. What kind of other challenges did you have to overcome in a male-dominated industry?
Well, it's funny because in the same way that I had to pluck up the courage to do that, I know that that is exactly the same for anybody in the construction industry. It's not necessarily like a female, that's not a female issue. It's just, it's actually just a very challenging industry to be in general. Yeah. You know, there's a kind of, the male dominance, you know, probably does lead to that certain culture. But I know, for example, in other sectors, like the health sector, which is, you know, female dominated, that is equally challenges and equally as much aggression. So I don't, you know, having never been a man in the construction industry, I can't, you know, I can't compare what, if there's any, you know, what the differences are, but just that it's a challenging industry in general. You know, my kind of feeling is that a lot of the issues come from my own personal beliefs, not necessarily what, you know, people would, you know, think about, you know, working with a woman. It's a lot of it, I think, comes from within. Yeah. That makes sense.
So do you think that that's kind of the main challenge, that you had to overcome maybe your own beliefs within the industry?
Exactly. And I think there's, you know, a lot of like conditioning from, like, even from the moment we're born, where, you know, it's a society where like there's conditioning going on, and in the school system you're rewarded for being compliant and conforming. And so that's why I think you know, girls and women see, you know, in the school system are doing really well, but then when it comes out into the real world, where you actually stand to gain a lot more by stepping outside of the boundaries and putting your head above the parapet, you know, that's not what we're conditioned to do. We're conditioned to get a pat on the back for doing what we're told. So it's, you know, the world of education is completely different to the world of work.
Yeah. And I suppose, like you say, like it can start as early as school age, like that you're kind of conditioned to maybe think a certain way or just conform to things. So what kind of tips would you have to empower future women leaders or future women thinking about getting into the construction industry?
Well, if you're thinking of getting into the construction industry, again, I don't think, you know, I don't think there's any particular barriers there other than its lack of appeal to women. So I would say if you could do the research and really understand and get your head around what a rewarding career it can be, then that's a good start. I would say, if possible, get a mentor or a good role model. And again, this probably applies to whatever sector you're going in and whether you're male or female, but I would say that would definitely help. You know, have a plan of where you want to be. Don't just drift. Take ownership of your own goals. One thing I would say is, when you are, one thing that I've only actually noticed in the last year or so, I had this light bulb moment, is that I used to look up to people, and yet in the industry that I'm in, 99% of the people in leadership roles that I know are men. And I would look at them and say, God, they must have had to be really, really, really brilliant to get there. And then I had this realization that it's because that they got into that role, that's when they start having the insights, and that's what makes them, you know, that's where, you know, and I was like, how did I never notice that before? So you're thinking, I could never be there, because how am I ever going to get that experience? How am I ever going to get, you know, that level of confidence? But then I realized that it's actually the other way around. You have to get into that position, and only then do you start having kind of higher level conversations, you start getting the insights. So don't, you know, I'd say to almost get there first, and then that kind of the rest will follow. And the other thing I would say is to just be authentic, you know, be yourself. You don't have to try and mirror what other people are like to fit to be able to progress, as long as you you know, have your purpose, you know what you stand for, and you continue to stand for it. You don't necessarily have to develop the kind of the traits of the majority of people around you in order to be able to progress.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, the kind of tips and advice that you're given there really is kind of just really good general advice as well for anybody in any industry. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Saffron? You can either just come off mute or pop it in the chat.
Oh yeah, that's a good one there from Saoirse. Is it as digitalisation created opportunities for diversity? The answer is it has got massive potential to, but the construction industry is the second least digitised industry after only hunting and agriculture. And this is one of the things that I'm promoting at the minute, is that at the minute it's not, you know, the construction industry isn't conducive to diversity at all. You know, it's like there's a lot of work done to get to improve diversity, but it's like throwing seeds on stony ground, because it's such a hostile and unwell, like, you know, it's not conducive even to different perspectives. So yeah, there's no doubt about it that digitalisation can make basically the workplace a better place to be. It can make it more flexible, and it can make it more, it can you know, remove some of it could definitely remove a lot of the barriers and you know, make it more appealing.
Saffron, hi. So I've been involved for quite a few years now with the gender issues, the professional women's networks, and I'm actually running a mentoring panel at the moment. And I'm just wondering, do you ever call out gender issues when you see them? So if I ever go to a meeting and there's like 10 guys and a girl, I will actually say before I sit down, you know, wow, where's the balance here? Or interesting mix of people in the room. Or if I see a photograph, like, I'd call it out, and I would recommend anybody to do that, by the way. Is that something you find you can do in your area, or are you potentially shooting yourself in the foot?
No, I wouldn't be worried about shooting myself in the foot. I'd be more worried about, you know, what, I don't know, I think there's more than one way to skin a cat, and for me that wouldn't necessarily be the best way forward. I think I can't explain why. It's not that I would be worried to, but I think I don't know, because I'm in lots of meetings with you know, with you know, where the balance isn't very good, but I've never felt that because I'm probably preaching to the converted. That's basically probably why I don't think it would, you know, necessarily add any benefit.
I can see, Willie, you've got your hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I kind of hesitate to say this, but there's quite a lot of examples of successful men being more generous to their, you know, high potential followers than happens with women. Is that something that you've noticed? That really successful women, sadly, tend not to be as generous and helpful at enabling other women to succeed in the way that men have?
No, I don't find that to be the experience at all. I think I feel that's a bit of a generalisation, but what I would say is because there's more men in the industry, there's more evidence of that happening. But I've no idea what it would be like if it was 50-50. Does that make sense? It wouldn't be a controlled experiment, because I've got it's such small sample data with the women role models that I have. But from what I know, you know, again, having not been a man, I have not experienced you know, would I have had different opportunities or different, like, foot on the ladder if I'd been a man? I've no idea. So it's impossible to compare, I would say.
It's not just limited to, you know, construction. It does happen across a wide range of industries.
But yeah, but again, so my experience really is just, you know, mainly in the construction industry. So there's not that many examples that I could point to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Willie.
Judith, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I think it goes back to Madeleine Albright's comment saying there's a special place in hell for women who do for women. And I think I have that on my desk, and I live by that. I'm sitting in an office with a team here. We're all females, and we've got some on maternity leave who are currently needing a lot of support, and they will be needing support when they come back to work. So, you know, we're lucky in marketing. It is a female-led, I suppose, sector, but we do work with a lot of male-dominated sectors. And you mentioned agriculture as one as the least digitally aware, and that's one that we work in. So I agree with you, which is be aware of male bias, but actually be smarter than the rest, just to show that we can be smarter rather than tackling it head on head. There are more clever ways that you can show the impact that women can have on it, and I think that's how I live it. But yeah, I think really your point about calling it out is also very useful, and I think very valuable if you feel that there is no other way around it. Going head to head and being brave enough to do that is important as well.
I agree, and don't get me wrong. I would call out something if it was, you know, clearly a gender issue, or, you know, if something was going on, and I have, you know, done that. But it's not just a general thing. But like you said, Judith, as well, I would say it's actually very, 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 very complicated subject. It's not, and there's so many kind of obvious ways to look at it, or you know, not lazy, but, you know, just jumping to conclusions or generalizing. But actually, especially in the construction industry, for example, like the historic industry, it's been, you know, male dominated since the beginning of time, and it's only in the last few years. So that entire momentum and that inertia and that way of thinking, the aggression, the competitiveness, which actually up until, you know, relatively recently really served the industry well. It got the job done. So that's why it's so hard to change. But now things are so, when simple decisions need to be made and things are quite simple, that dominance hierarchy does work well. But when things are more complicated, it doesn't create conditions for people to speak up with creative ideas. It doesn't, you know, it's not conducive to diversity of opinion or innovation or progress. But what's happening now is that the world that we live in is becoming more complicated, and the technology and construction projects and the way things are communicated. So this is why now it is important that we that kind of the culture, the aggression, that needs to go now, because it's going to, that is why, you know, there's been a 1% increase in productivity in the last 20 years in construction. And that, you know, it probably could be argued that that's because you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it. And if you've got the same people and the same thinking, never changing, never bringing in new opinions, never bringing in new ideas, then, you know, how can that continue? You know, how can that continue?
Yeah, that's a good point. That links quite nicely to John's asked a question earlier as to whether you know of any thought leaders within the industry that are shining examples of increasing diversity at management and board level. within the construction industry?
Yeah, I would say Emma Dixon, she's a technical director of Arcadis. She's an excellent example, does a lot for diversity, and crucially, she understands the complexities of it and builds that into a lot of the, you know, basically everything she does, that is a factor in it, and she's an excellent role model.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Saffron, for highlighting that all for us. I think I've learned quite a lot about the construction industry kind of over the past year from our event with Causeway, and it's fantastic to hear the kind of insight and your specific experience within that. So thank you so much for taking the time out today to explain that and share all your thoughts on that. And I think some fantastic tips about mentors and role models. And as Isa said, within Causeway, we do a mentoring scheme where we pair an experienced professional leader with the young professionals. So it's a really good program to get involved in if you're not already in that field. So thanks a million, Saffron, really appreciated.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks so much. Perfect. So I hope we're feeling a little warmed up now after listening to Saffron's talk. One of the huge perks about being part of our live audience rather than the online audience after is that you're going to get to take part in our network breakout sessions. So enjoy, everyone. We're going to have kind of about 8 minutes of a breakout session, a couple people in each room. And what we'd like you to do is just a quick introduction, who you are and what is it that you do. And the question that we'd like you to kind of discuss or think about within your group is, what can we do to create empowering cultures for women in business to support their progression to leadership? So I guess for everyone on the call, let's have a think about how we can work together for that. Aoife, are we ready for the breakout rooms?
Yeah, I'll open them now.
Fab.
Welcome back, everyone.
Gosh, we absolutely did not want to leave that breakout. We were starting to all really feel empowered after that. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining that. I hope we're all kind of feeling raring to go there. Don't worry, we've got another chance to kind of meet a whole new group of people, feel further inspired in a breakout session later. But kind of without further ado, I'd like to introduce our next guest speaker, Penny Morton. She is a project engineer at Koolmill Systems and a founder of DIY Women. I'm noticing, Suna, we've got you on a spotlight. I think that's fab, you're on a spotlight, but I'm probably, if you don't mind,
sorry, that was an error.
No, just
that's fine.
So you don't feel under pressure there to speak. I didn't want you to feel that. But Penny, just as a bit of background, I met Penny actually at university, and I thought, it's amazing now that we're at the stage as young professionals in our career where I can call on her to come and join a kind of my professional organisation as well. I think it's a really amazing opportunity, and Penny's currently out in Nigeria, so really appreciative of your time joining us. I mean, I've been following kind of what you've been doing a little bit on Instagram, and it just looks amazing. So I guess similarly to kind of the construction industry, women make up about 15% of engineers, and I know that that's your background actually as well as Saffron's too. So Penny, could you tell us a little bit more about your journey to working at Koolmill Systems, kind of getting in the industry? I guess, were there any challenges or obstacles that you had to overcome within that?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm Penny Morton and I'm a project engineer at Koolmill. Kind of going back to maybe just university to give you a bit of background, was I studied product design engineering, so I did like mechanical engineering, a little bit of electrical at the Glasgow University, and then that was combined with kind of design challenges at the Glasgow School of Art. So we'd get given a project like, oh, how can we keep elderly people in the home for longer and safer, and then we'd come up with a solution and pitch it. And kind of through university, I really saw each summer as an opportunity to use my 3 months and go somewhere new and like work somewhere different. So I worked in like Turkey making robotic beer taps. I was in China for a bit. I was also in India as well. And these kind of experiences have really helped me today when I was applying for a job. Graduated, COVID happened as I was finishing my master's, so I had 2 job offers and then they fell through, and I was kind of sat there thinking, right, what do I do now? I was applying to jobs and I realized when I was applying to jobs that, I mean, I did engineering, but even still my degree was quite varied in the sense of what jobs I could go into afterwards. And I really realized that I wanted to find a company that really aligned with my values and mission, so that I was kind of doing something that I really cared about. Like, I wanted to use my engineering degree to try and help people and really improve their lives, and people who also needed it most. So I actually, a kind of family of a friend reached out to me through this project I was setting up called FemEng in Malawi. He'd seen me on LinkedIn, and then at the end of the meeting, he actually offered me a job. And I was like, oh, okay. So I looked into it, obviously, before I said yes. But yeah, their whole ethos is really trying to use rice processing technology and empower farmers and smallholders, and be able to, so that they can make better rice, essentially. So it's a sector that I never thought I would go into, and as already has been discussed, the agriculture sector for women is like even smaller. So but yeah, I think I've just been kind of really open-minded and flexible when I was looking at jobs, rather than kind of pigeonholing myself to, okay, I did product design engineering, let's find a product design engineering role. Like, I thought, well, I've got these skills and they can be applied to so many different sectors. So kind of really think about, well, what impact can my engineering degree have? And yeah, so I kind of jumped right into that, and I've now been in the role for like over a year. And yeah, I'm in these meetings, and I am in a very male-dominated sector, but I think, as Saffron touched upon earlier, I have a fresh pair of eyes, and I kind of look at things differently than maybe it's been done before. So I really see that as an advantage and an opportunity for going into a male-dominated sector.
I love that take on it, Penny. And this is, I actually saw, I think it was on one of your kind of Instagrams earlier, we talk about how everything's kind of very, that sector, that agriculture is very male dominated. I'm sure I saw something though that you were saying that actually in Nigeria, obviously where you are just now, actually it's all the women who are doing all this manual labor out there, which is like a total culture shift to what we experience here.
Yeah, it's women. Up to 70% of farmers in Nigeria are women, but the problem is that they don't own the land. So they do all the work on the land, but because they don't own the land, it means they don't seek the financial benefits from it, which is something that we're trying to displace and change. And it's complicated, because you think, okay, well, we'll give the money to the women, but by doing that, you can actually put them in danger. Because there's now not just men, you now have other people who you've essentially put a target on their back. So it's a very complicated issue, and it's a lot more about empowering those women and upskilling them and giving them the knowledge to be able to try and access that funds, rather than us just saying, well, you've done the work, here's the money type of thing. And interestingly, when you see the especially Nigeria, the money is spent, is reinvested back in the farm or the family or the kind of local village by them when they do receive that money, which is just a kind of interesting thing as well to know.
Yeah, thanks, Penny. It's fantastic to hear about the difference in culture. I find that really interesting, and it must be great experiencing that. You're always someone that I noticed that you need, like, you go above and beyond in everything you do. You're always seeking new experiences. The reason Penny got flagged to me is I noticed that she'd won kind of one of the Innovate UK's Young Innovators Awards, including a grant for your project DIY Women. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so kind of from personal experiences, I was one of the first female labourers at a company called Gallo Glass. I recently have been renovating my own flat, and then obviously just generally being an engineer as well. I kind of saw an opportunity, and it's very much an idea. And so I essentially, through the award, I applied for my idea called DIY Women. And this is essentially workshops which look to really equip and empower women with the practical skills, but while engaging with the employers to really try and create more diverse and inclusive engineering, construction, and trades workforces. So the way that hopefully, like the dream essentially, to put it nicely, is to almost do what Pure Gym did with gyms, but with workshops. So they made them affordable, accessible, and open 24/7, and also with a really trendy, informative app as well. And this combination has resulted in a really diverse customer base that doesn't discriminate against the mum who can only go at midnight, as that's when the kids are finally asleep, or the person who just really wants to try it out for a month to see if they like it. And that's kind of the business goal for DIY women. And yeah, I'm looking to, the dream is to be able to provide a safe space for women to really learn these practical skills and enjoy making through educational and engaging DIY workshops. And then hopefully in future, they could also occupy a retail space which sells sustainable products made by the women and really tries and reconnects the public with the processed materials and people behind the products, which is something I think we're seeing in our shopping street, and it's one of the reasons that it's kind of dying right now. And then the final way that I really look to try and approach it is to cultivate a network of relevant employers and work with them to create inclusive workspaces and really try and act as that person connecting that woman who's come along for a workshop and really showed potential and interest maybe in becoming a joiner, but then I can then connect them to a joiner organization or company, or for example,
oh, is it just me that
I know a lot of kind of network, but yeah.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Penny, for explaining about all that. I'm really excited to see kind of where DI Women goes and follow that. I guess finally, our question is, what would you say to women, or to be honest, anyone? I actually had a really brief discussion about this in my previous breakout session. I find it hard to talk on a call so much about gender when it's something that we're all trying to move a little bit away from, kind of stereotyping people as that. So I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that today, and to say obviously it's about women today, we're speaking a lot about that, but we are trying to move away from making gender defining quality for you. So in this one, for someone who's looking to kind of go and study or get into a career that is currently a male-dominated industry, do you have any advice or anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say go for it, if you want to, that is. But yeah, don't try not be scared or intimidated. Times are changing so much. Even in the past 10 years, there has been massive increase in women joining different male-dominated sectors. And there's also various organisation networks out there to support you if you do feel intimidated or a bit lost at times. So one of the things at university, I was president of FemEng, which was kind of a network to be able to support not even support, just kind of connect us all up, the female engineers within the university. And I created Jobs for Life, and really valuable. It's actually after university. So a lot of us have joined completely different sectors, having different, and we're kind of experienced the imposter syndrome, which Saffron, the inner part, which we tell ourselves we can't do, so we're experiencing something when so much of it is inside. And that's where those kind of friends and networks are so valuable, is because we kind of remind each other oh, it's okay, you'll get through it, or this happened to me, but you'll make it through. And then I think on the more kind of mere entrepreneur side things, I would say if you've got an idea, do your research, but there kind of comes a point where you need to take a leap of faith and really just try it out to learn. There's so many great ideas that are out there in the world, but very few people actually act on them and really try to make them into a reality. It does take a lot of guts and determination, and you're going to get knocked down. But again, there's so much support, and ask people for feedback around you, and they'll tell you the stumbling, they'll tell you this bad thing which might happen, but it's going to stop you from doing it in the future. So yeah, you'll be surprised at how many people are out there to help you. And yeah, my advice is just go for it.
I love that. And if anyone's thinking about being an entrepreneur, Penny's probably your first point of contact here. But also our next speaker, Chippy, crazy, amazing entrepreneur that I'm really looking forward to hearing from. Penny, thanks so much for taking out the time today to discuss all that with us. I mean, it's fascinating unpacking how much extra things you're doing on top of that, how many networks you're involved in. And I think it's something that we can all strive to do. Causeway hopefully being one of these really supportive networks that people can feel like they can reach out for support to. So thank you so much, Penny. I really appreciate the time today, and have an amazing rest of your trip in Nigeria. I'll be keeping an eye on it. Does anyone have any questions for Penny before we move on? Happy for people to just come off of mute and dive straight in there. This is where we've got to wait a second and see has anyone got any hands up or anything.
I've got a quick question that might have a long answer. It just seems to me, Penny, you've crammed so much into your life and career so far, and I'm really wondering, what next? Do you have a forward plan, or is it just see what happens?
I mean, the experiences I've gained so far have kind of led me towards DIY Women. Like, I've always been so passionate about how can we achieve equality and diversity within the sector. Like, my dad is my biggest critic. He's the one who says, look, femenge, why is it not menenge? And I'm like, Dad, if you came to my class, you'd see why. But I tried to educate him, like, that I don't want femenge to exist. Like, the goal is that we don't need it in future and we are completely equal. So, yeah, I mean, my job right now, I am loving it in terms of I'm getting to do so many different things. It's a really small company. But yeah, I mean, I'm 24 right now. I have done a lot, but my brother's always like, oh, Penny, here she goes again.
Well, keep going, girl, and we'll have you back and hear what happens next.
Absolutely. Judith, you had kind of a hand waving there, did you?
Well, I think Bridgette kind of more or less asked the question, but my question was, what's holding you back from your next thing? What's the barriers for you? What are the barriers?
So for me, I actually got a really good useful piece of advice the other day. Someone was saying, and Saffron actually touched on it as well, thinking about where do you want to be in, say, 5-10 years time, and actually making a plan to go there. I think the way that I've kind of led my life is very much like maybe an opportunities arise and I've just thought, you know what, let's do it. And I've kind of just, I've learned a lot along that way. But I think now I'm at the point in my career where I need to think a bit more strategically and think, okay, right, if I want to set up DIY Women in X amount of years, then how do I actually get there? Like, what is my next steps and how do I get that income? And that's something that through the Young Innovators program, I'm learning so much. Like, I'm an engineer, but I'm trying to become an entrepreneur. So I'm trying to really learn all of these different skills and how to make an idea into an actual profitable business. So yeah, I need to think more strategically and stop saying yes to everything.
I don't think it's done you any harm so far, but I think it's a good point. But do you have any mentors that can help you, maybe business mentors, if you think that's the bit that maybe the business side of you might need some help with?
Yeah, so I mean, I've recently kind of, from starting DIY Women, a few women have actually like met with me and I've had some really good pieces of advice with them. But yeah, I think me kind of seeking out a mentor who I can kind of have that regular point of contact with and almost like see me kind of through the journey will be something that I'm definitely going to look out for, because I think it'll have a huge impact on when you do hit a roadblock and you get a bit down in the dumps and they're able to just kind of like see the light and be like, no, you'll be fine, just get through.
Absolutely. I have my mentor on the call, Martin McBride. He's my professional partner, and I always feel like I'm reaching a bit of a crisis point. Martin's there to give me the business rationale, which is one of the amazing bits we're involved in. So yeah, thanks a million, Penny. I'm sorry we don't have time for any more questions now. Do you know what, folks? We're running over, but I'm totally okay about it because there's so much good stuff being unpacked here. So thanks a million, Penny. We're about to go into our second breakout session. Just now, similar format to last one, but we're probably going to have to be even speedier. So I hope we're feeling even more awake now. The next question we have for this one is, what has been the best piece of advice you've received in your career to help with progression? Aoife, are we ready to dive into the next breakout sessions?
Yeah, opening them now.
Perfect.
Hello. We had a really great breakout room there, talking about overcoming self-doubt and how you can actually sometimes use self-doubt to become kind of competent and to kind of not make as many mistakes as what you should be doing. It was really great listening to kind of more experienced professionals. And another more experienced professional who I'd like to welcome is our third guest speaker, who is Chupi Sweetman. She is the CEO of Chupi, which is a multi-award winning Irish fine jewellery brand. So hi Chupi, it's great to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here, although I feel slightly cheated. I'd like to be in Edinburgh. I'll have to drink all at some point.
Oh, well, I'm not actually in Edinburgh, I'm in Falkirk, but yeah.
I'll take it. Travel at this stage anywhere. I'm sitting in very beautiful, very sunny Dublin, but it would be lovely to be in person with you all.
Yeah. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur?
Of course. So hi everyone, a pleasure to see you all. My name is Chupi, and yes, that is my real name. I blame my parents. It means baby, which, as you can imagine, I passionately hated when I was 13, but I learned to live with it. I am the CEO of a fine jewellery brand. We have 60 people on the team. We sell in 67 countries around the world. We make the pieces that mark the biggest moments in your life. So your engagement ring, your wedding band, your divorce ring. As women, we're disrupting the diamond industry. So the diamond industry was very much owned by men. It was defined by men. And we're really looking at changing that. We're a D2C, direct-to-consumer disruptive force. I started my career, so I'm 38, which I always think context is important because the challenges we face as women change in each decade we're in. And for a long time, one of mine was being young. So I started my first business when I was 17. I started a little fashion label as my way of paying my way through school and college. And I got scouted by Arcadia. I know it's a Topshop, for those who aren't aware, was once cool, I promise. Went and got to work for commercial fashion for 6 years. Loved it. Worked at the time with Kate Moss and Topshop. Absolutely brilliant. Worked on 3-week contracts. So if you didn't hit your targets, you had 3 weeks to catch them. And after that, you were out the door. I did that for 6 years, which is very, very intense, but brilliant. It taught me everything I know about commercial design, quit fast fashion to go into diamonds and heirlooms, and built that business over the last 10 years, scaled to where we are now. I said earlier that one of the biggest opportunities in my life has been being a woman, but it's also been one of the biggest challenges. And so at the start of my career, it was being young. I remember walking into the bank age 21 with this massive contract with Topshop to work with Arcadia, who were the global force in high street fashion at the time. Sat down with my bank manager and was like, so I need to get a credit card. This was not the dark ages, folks. This was 2005. I was like, I need to get a credit card because I have a company. I need to buy things with my credit card, because back then you couldn't use your debit card to buy over the phone. You had to have a credit card. And the bank manager said to me, he was like, that's a lovely little business you have there. Would you just consider using your boyfriend's credit card until, just get it up and set, it'd be grand, use your boyfriend's credit card. Subsequently fired them, obviously, and moved bank the next day. But that set the tone for, I consider, my early part of my 20s was very much on having to prove and scale and grow a business without the support that exists, because male-led businesses tend to be started differently and scaled differently. I have been really lucky to have built a brilliant team around us. So we just went and stole Stella McCartney's marketing director. Our head of CX is out of TikTok. Our head of operations is out of Simone Rocha. We've built this really brilliant female team around us, and they are all absolutely inspirational. But what's been brilliant for me, it's not only my team brilliant, but I've been very lucky to have mentors at every decade. So my oldest mentor is in her 80s, from her 80s down, and it's given me real clarity on the challenges and opportunities of being a woman at every decade in your life, because it changes. Because whilst the challenge of my 20s was being young and walking into a room, owning a multi-million-pound business and having to, hold space, like wear the jacket. I walk into a room now and I take the top of the table. I walk in, and all that kind of positional stuff that as a woman maybe doesn't come as naturally to us, and we certainly aren't enforced. I've learned all of those things. But then we look at the challenge of your 30s as the next stage of progression. So we have a beautiful big business and it's brilliant now, but there's different challenges that come at this stage where there's a perception around family. My daughter is 20 months old. I had her in the midst of the pandemic, and the amount of people who said to me when I was pregnant, oh, that's so lovely, you're going to step back now, focus on the family, it's so amazing. And no disrespect to people who choose that path, but it shouldn't be an assumption that as women, we're going to step down from CEO. Because the challenge now, and the challenge I consider to be the one that I'm going to fight to my dying breath, is women at C-suite, women at board level. The numbers in Ireland are embarrassing. At Ireland, 1 in 8 women sit at board level. Less than 20% of women at C-suite, or less than 20% of the people at C-suite are women. We're not going to change the world unless we have women in leadership.
That's really interesting. And I mean, that's to the bank to tell you to do your boyfriend's credit card. That's horrific. I mean, it's not like 2005 was all that long ago.
I have to also counter that by 4 years ago. We were considering what financing, so we've self-funded the business, and we were considering what financing options we'd use for some short-term debt. And I had this feeling that our relationship manager wasn't taking us seriously. So I brought my husband into the room. My husband failed senior math. He can't count. Wonderful, brilliant man, I'd like to caveat. He's our CTO, professional nerd, could code with his eyes closed, but doesn't do math. And I brought him into the room. I was just checking if I had someone else in the room, and the reaction was wild. And we fired the bank the next day and moved again. I'm working my way through the Irish banking system, I would like to point out at this stage. But that prejudice still exists, where as a woman, you're definitely not leading the financial strategy for your business.
Yeah. And then as the CEO of the company, do you feel like, even out with like the banks, that there's still a lot of other challenges there from being a woman?
I think I always find it difficult, because I'd like to be sitting here saying, no challenges, no such thing as, you know, there's no concern when you walk into a room, there's no positioning, no posturing, no doubt. But unfortunately, and for all of us who are women, I presume you felt it and seen it and experienced it. I would like my daughter to grow up in a world that doesn't have that, but I unfortunately can't say that we're quite there yet. We're there in some rooms. We're there in some meetings. You meet some, you know, it's not every room you walk into. And look, I'm pretty confident at this stage. You would take a lot. I am definitely going like, get out of my chair. That's my seat, and taking up space. But I've come here, I'm 38, I'm 20 years in doing what I do. So I have a lot of confidence. I think it's probably harder when you're junior, when you're starting out your career, when you're finding your place, or if you're coming back to work after an absence, or you're brought up without the idea that you could be anyone's equal.
Yeah. So what would your advice then be to like any women who are looking to start up their own business and then get up to that level?
I think for me, the biggest one is to find what happiness looks like to you. I always thought that, as I said, I've been lucky to have mentors at every age. And for me, it's been amazing thinking about, okay, what does 65 look like? What does 75 look like? What do I want my life to feel like? What do I want my world to feel like? So imagine what it looks like. You've got to get there. And then you've got to build a plan that takes you on that road. But to find happiness, because it's different for everyone. What makes me happy versus what makes you happy. Like, if I never get in a plane again, it'll be too soon. I spent a lot of my life doing a lot of travel. So for me, happiness is being local. And I think so often we conflate salary with happiness. Yeah, it's a component. We conflate title. Yeah, it's nice. But what do you want? What does happiness look like to you? Is it a massive team? Is it a small team? Is it working remotely on an island somewhere in the Caribbean? Is it being right in the center of a city and hustling for it? And so that's the big question. Define what happiness looks like to you, and then build a roadmap towards it. And the other one is a network. Like, the most powerful people in my life, the most powerful supports, is having those women and men. Morton, our chair of our board, is actually sitting on the call. Morton, you get a very, very honourable mention as being one of those people in my life who has supported me on the days I needed, and also called me out my bullshit when I needed it. And that's what a good mentor, that's what a good peer, that's what good networks like this do. There has to be an honesty in the room, and you could feel it from all the breakout sessions. The honesty is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I'll open it up to questions now for Chippy. We have one here in the chat from Saoirse. Does the influence of nature in your collections resonate more with female consumers than the traditional options available in the wider market? She also says that she loves your
thanks, Saoirse. So I would say that the big difference between what we do and what most traditional diamond companies do is they're made by men for men, forgetting that there's us at the end of it. Like, I'm the user. I'm the one who's going to wear that diamond for the rest of my life. So I want to be considered in the journey. Whereas De Beers, Cartier, Tiffany, they're designing big shiny rocks that he can tell his friend that he spent 3x in his salary buying your engagement ring, and that's ticked his feeling. So I think why we have connected, so we've about 250,000 in our community now, and why we've connected so well with people is because we make things that make them happy. We're serving their moments, their promotion, their engagement, their wedding. And he is a huge part of our journey, but we've made sure that she, and it's predominantly she who's wearing our jewelry, is really, really happy with it, that it's made for her.
Yeah, at the centre of the journey. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have to say, Chupi, I have never in my almost 60 years on this planet met a guy who feels he bought an engagement ring. He just bought the one she wanted. In other words, was very much part of the process, you know, came along, picked it out. I don't think I know a single guy who actually bought an engagement ring. So he may have paid for one that a woman picked.
You need to find better human beings. If you want to meet the best people in the entire world, come spend a day on our virtual, or in reality, we have a store in Dublin floor with Chippy, and you literally meet the most amazing people because they're so filled with love. Like, you meet people who are, so we would say our split is 50-50. So 50% is him choosing by himself, and the other 50 is they come choose together. But that journey has changed. And I think I meet the romantics. Like, we meet the people who really care. Possibly the more cynical purchasers end up.
I'm actually trying to make that point. I don't know a guy who would go in and just say, I'm going to buy a dirty big rock so I can brag. Guys want to buy the ring that women want.
I think that's, yeah, and I think that's really fair. They do really try. And they're also hamstrung by what is actually out there and what is available, and culture. Like, we have to remember, it's a cultural thing to be, you have to spend a certain amount of money, you have to go to these stores. So they're fighting a lot of cultural bias. But yes, I believe in love and romance and the idea that men care. I said yes when my husband proposed.
Eventually.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had a conversation about him where we were going, but I said yes eventually.
Another question we have from Bridgette is, how did you pivot from the more traditional physical shop to online, and did the pandemic help your online business?
A great question, Bridgette. So for us, we built the business to be online. We were digital first from day one. So when we started back in 2011, I knew we wanted global. And we live on a tiny, tiny island on the westernmost tip of Europe. If you want to go global from Ireland, you either move or you get online. And so we built to be online from day one. So what we did have to do in the pandemic was lots of other services that we had. As those flights shut down, we had customers flying from all over the world into our stores. So we, a guy from New Zealand coming to try his engagement ring, and he had an idea. It was this 2-carat diamond. And so we had set up virtual appointments. So we literally, it was so lo-fi, like, bless him for sticking with us. It was basically a WhatsApp video call that had to happen at 7 a.m. in the morning to serve at the time he could do in New Zealand. And we were basically video calling him on WhatsApp. We've now got, really slick. We've built augmented reality. So you can take a photograph of your hand and try on your Chippy rings using augmented reality. So we build things that serve our audience virtually and digitally, but we built digital from day one because, for me, success is global. We knew we wanted to change the world. Like, we believe in a better tomorrow. Our gold is recycled, our diamonds are recycled. We're about that idea of change. So in order to do change, you can't just change Ireland, you want to change the world.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much, Chippy. It's been really great hearing about your journey.
Pleasure.
And I have to say, Judith, is that you jumping in there?
I think so.
Oh, I don't know. Can I ask a question, or is that past?
No, go on.
Okay. Oh, I just wanted to ask Chupi, whenever you, so you were previously working in fashion or high street fashion, fast fashion, and then you moved, and the way that you phrased it was into jewellery and heirloom. Was that a deliberate choice to move, obviously still within design, but into something that's got more permanence? And I just wanted to ask them about, was there like a sustainability or something in behind that, or?
Steph, I did the only sensible thing you should have did at 27 and had a quarter life crisis. I was, really lucky. I'd had a decade, at 27, I'd already had a decade working in fast fashion. I loved it. It was absolutely amazing. But I knew, and even then I didn't have the words to articulate it. It took the mentors, the advice, the support, the network to get to the point of the words of being able to articulate, I'm not happy. I don't see myself here in 10 years. I always knew I wasn't going to be there in my 40s. I knew that fast fashion is a wonderful career, but it's a career for a portion of your life. And I knew I wanted to do something with meaning. I remember, back to Richie's point, I remember the day My husband proposed. We were in Montpellier. It was midnight by a fountain. It was as magical as it was possible. And I remember he pulled out the engagement ring. It was a total surprise. And I remember wearing my ring and thinking, I own a piece of the future. I own something that one day my daughter, who at that point was a very fictitious subject, will own. And that's why jewelry is an incredible thing to be in from a sustainability point of view. We're making pieces of the future that will last for generations. It's a real privilege to be in it.
Yeah, amazing. And this necklace that I'm wearing was my great grandfather's. It was his watch repurposed into a necklace, and I wear it every day. So it is the future and the past, and they're so important.
All tied together. So an incredible business to be in.
Yeah.
Oh, Chippy, it's been amazing. And I have to say, from someone who has absolutely used the augmented reality tool, really amazing. I try on like the different stacks. There's loads of different options. Oh, it's very empowering, actually. And I think something that's lasts for ages. And it was fantastic to hear about, I think something which we've been speaking about lots, thinking big, thinking towards the future, aspiring to that. And it absolutely sounds like that's what you've done through your global jewelry brand. So Chippy, thanks so much for taking the time out today.
I actually, Megan, realised I've missed one of the most important points for women's equality, which is men's. So one of the big things we talk about when we talk about women's equality on International Women's Day, we focus on women's equality, but it's only going to be achieved if we give men the rights and responsibilities they need in the world. And that starts with parental leave. So at Chippy, the Irish legislation right now is 26 weeks paid, 26 weeks, like not paid for women, but 26 weeks, and for men it's 2. 26 and 2, that's how we value parenthood. We need women to do this much and men get to do this. So at Chippy, we're 13 paid weeks for men. So 26 paid for our women and 13 for our men. So our dads get to go and be dads and get to support their wives at home. And that we talk about the things in this room, like we're going to be empowered. But ultimately, if our partners and our wives and our husbands and sons and daughters are going to end up where she carries the burden of childcare into the future, it's fine. We'll be equal till we have babies and it'll end there. So our job is to change that. And that's something we can all do today in our organizations, in our teams, is advocate for that responsibility for the men and the dads who want to be dads as well. So Megan, sorry, that's my platform.
What a great message. Thank you. It's a call to action, which is amazing. And you told me earlier that it's compulsory too, which I think is another really great point within that as well. So yeah, thanks so much for highlighting that. It's absolutely right. And this is a change that we need to see. So it's something we can take back to all of our workplaces after this. And kind of, you spoke a bit about the women at these senior level leadership positions, and it's something actually which Lift Ireland is extremely involved in. It's about empowering the future leaders of Ireland. And I mean, I think you said 20%. Yeah, I find kind of 30% of leaders across the UK and Ireland are women. And you're right, it's just not good enough. So I'd really like to kind of pass on to Sarah-Lyn to tell us a little bit more about Lift and how we can get women up into these leadership positions through things like training around tables. Sarah-Lyn.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks for all the wonderful speakers today and for having me here today to talk on behalf of Lift Ireland. It's I almost forgot I had to speak because I've been enjoying the event so much. I'm on, here I am. But yeah, our vision at Lift is to create positive change in Ireland and by Ireland. And so like Bridgette's doing an incredible job with all of you in Causeway, raising that level of leadership by Ireland from Scotland. And Chupi, we will get around to conquering the world as well. We probably won't stop with Ireland, but we're on a 10-year journey of which we're 4 years in. So at Lift, so we really believe that everyone is a leader. We are gender biased when it comes to leadership. Everyone is a leader. I'm a leader, you're a leader. Everyone in this room is a leader. Because if you have people who are paying attention to what you're saying, you're leading them and you have influence with them. So you are leading them. And sometimes you're leading really well. And sometimes, we're not leading so well. And so what Lift gives you in the round table is a chance to reflect on your leadership and think about how you can get just a little bit better in leading yourself. So it's a lovely model. But I suppose, look, we all know leadership is incredibly important in every area of life, and because every community, every workplace, every group, every decision, every activity and every behavior is impacted by leadership. Every person that influences that dynamic is leading it. And so at Lift, we think of leadership not so much as a positional thing, but as an activity. So, you know, it's about the activity of leadership. And every single one of us is involved in that activity every single day, from the kitchen table to the boardroom and from the employee to the CEO, because either we're influencing other people or we're being influenced by others. So the really good news is that every single one of us can become a little bit better in that activity, and every single one of us can become a better leader. And what Lift does is it gives you a process where you can build your leadership skills one person at a time, one action at a time, just like, say, going to the gym. So when we go to the gym, we build our muscles, and we all know that if we, and I've done this, so I absolutely know, if you just go once, you're not going to see the results. You can work all day just once and it's not going to work. But if you consistently go to the gym week on week on week, you're going to see great results. And leadership is just like that. You've got to build that leadership muscle and build those leadership skills. And we've seen and we know that those small actions done consistently can lead to really big change, and building those leadership muscles is what we give you in Lift and with that Lift process and in those round tables. And I suppose so we launched in 2018, so we're now in our 4th year. We're going to be having our 4th birthday in May, which is amazing. But what we've seen now with that is that 30,000 people have been through our round tables. So we're now able to measure the kind of long-term behavior change that we're seeing from people who come on our roundtables. And that's really interesting, because what we've seen from our research is that 97% of people who've come through the roundtables are now saying they've said that they have improved their understanding of what good leadership is. And that's a phenomenal result in itself. But what's more interesting is that 86% of people coming through the roundtables have experienced real positive behavior change. And for us, that's so amazing, because we're all about creating that positive impact. If I raise my leadership level and I become a better leader in myself, I in turn am having that positive influence on the people around me. And so it's building my own leadership is so important. And so I think it's so well worth everybody coming on a roundtable. The roundtable looks at one leadership value per week over a course of maybe 8 or 10 weeks. So you're looking at one leadership value, and you're going to take a small change to become a little bit better in that particular leadership value. Only takes 45 minutes a week, and you're going to build your leadership muscle and become better in those leadership skills, which in turn gives a lovely confidence to anybody who's doing the round tables. And actually, I was talking about that in the first breakout room, that confidence level is really important for empowering women in leadership, but empowering everybody when you become better in your skill set. And leadership is a skill set, and it's a skill set that can be learned. I loved what Bridgette said at the beginning before people arrived in. She said that accidental benefit of the round tables is that when you go on a round table, you get to network and meet other people in the room. And it's a lovely accidental benefit. I'm going to be using that a lot, Bridgette. But I see that all the time in the round tables. You build trust with the people you're on the round table with. You network with the people on the round table. It's like a whole separate network when you're doing a round table, and you form a really close relationship with the people in your round table, as well as building your leadership muscle and building those skills. So it's a lovely model. It's a really lovely model. And the great news is that all members of Causeway are invited to take part in one of the roundtables. And absolutely, if you would like to get involved, as I say, it's only 45 minutes a week, but you get all those added benefits. And so if you would like to get involved, I think you email membership at, is it causewayexchange.net? And Megan, you're probably going to send out some information as well after today on how people might get involved. But look, I can speak for myself. I started doing roundtables shortly after we launched in 2018. And honestly, I wish that I had had this when I was, coming out of college, or even when I had been in college, because the benefits I've had in the last couple of years from doing the roundtables have been phenomenal for me, and I think probably for my family too, because I've become more respectful, I listen more, I have a positive attitude that I'm working on, you know, so it's really building my leadership skills. And I'm part of the education team in LIFT, so we are bringing LIFT roundtables into the schools now to start with the younger generation who are running roundtables in TY year, bringing it into first and second years, and even the impact at that age is phenomenal. I wish I'd had it in school. I wish I'd had it in college. I'm so glad that I have this now to build on. We're always building our leadership muscle, and we can all become a little bit better from where we are. So thank you so much for partnering with us, Causeway and Bridgette and your team. You're amazing. And it's been, I have loved this day. Please invite me again. It's been fantastic. You know, it's just, I can't believe it's gone like that. So quick. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much, Sarah-Lyn. And having actually recently done the LIFT roundtables, don't be put off if you don't feel like you're currently not in a leadership position. Like myself, I'm a young professional, but you're right, the skills, I mean, you focus a whole week on listening, and I think I can listen to people, and it's just a whole different depth that you go into with that. And you're right, we all saw it as these building blocks are building up, and suddenly everything clicks. And the way I was relating to people and the attitude I was bringing every time was just really transformative from it. So if you're not a Causeway member, become a Causeway member so you can then join it. I guess that's the answer here, to be invited to the LIFT roundtable. So thank you so much, Sarah-Lyn. And as she mentioned, we do have space on our roundtables that are about to be coming up, which are actually also being hosted by our young professional Finn O'Neill. So it's a really great opportunity to be involved in that. So I'd like to just take a really quick moment, first of all, to thank so much everyone that's just been involved today. It's just been so inspiring, uplifting, and I think the message to take home is we're going to inspire and uplift and motivate everyone, regardless of your gender, regardless of position. That's what we're going to take away from today. We've had some really good call to actions throughout, some really great recommendations. I'd like to highlight, we have our first in-person event of the year coming up. It's the 16th of March. It's in Edinburgh. It's for St. Paddy's Day. It's a casual toast to bring everyone together, to get back to that in-person networking. So please do attend if you can. We'd love to see you all there. We've also got our renewables and fintech series that are going to be happening throughout the year, some online, some in person. So just keep an eye on our events because there's something for everyone here, plenty of networking opportunities. And as Chippy mentioned, she wants to get over to Edinburgh. She's feeling jealous. We don't all have to be, because on the 6th of October, our awards are in Edinburgh, our annual awards, and everyone's invited to it. So we'd really love to welcome you there. I'd also just like to really quickly mention, it's last minute, that we have a membership offer going on just now that you'll get an additional 3 months free membership. The deadline is Monday. We'll get moving fast. I really look forward to connecting with you all on LinkedIn that I'm not already connected with. There'll be a delegates list going out after. Please do connect and reach out to each other. It's what today's about. And I'd just like to finally pass over to Judith O'Leary, who's just going to close today. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much indeed, Megan, and thank you to our incredible speakers. I was just saying to the team earlier, my final thing is you need to have fun, because work can be a grind if you don't have fun. So please just remember that this is meant to be fun. And if you're not working with people who spark joy in your life, then move. That's all I would say. So have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And thank you so much again to everybody. And, you know, there's a lot of men who have a lot of women's interest in their heart. They're all fathers and husbands and partners. So, you know, it's not us and them. It's about us working together to change decades of inequality, but we can do it in a positive and upbeat way. And I'd like to thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful evening, and please pass on the benefits of Causeway to everybody you speak to, because our strength of this network is around the people who are around this table, virtual table it may be. And I look forward to meeting you all in person over the coming months. Thank you so much and good evening.
Thanks everyone, take care.